Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Sheriff John Zanoni with the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. I'm in charge of the Field Services Division. I'm joined here today by Lieutenant Brandon Purcell, who is the commander of the Sexual Assault Unit. Today, the Fresno County Sheriff's Office is announcing the arrest of Guadalupe Gonzalez, a serial rapist from the city of San Joaquin. We are doing this in an effort to locate additional victims that may be out there. As we have familiarized ourselves with the suspect, Guadalupe Gonzalez, we believe he is the same person responsible for other rapes that have occurred in 2017 and 2019. Our concern is that he is responsible for other rapes that have not yet been reported. As I said earlier, I'm joined by Lieutenant Brandon Purcell, who will now give an overview of the case and the information related to today's arrest and the previous cases.
Thank you, Assistant Sheriff. So we're going to get into some of the details of the current case that we're working and then how it ties into some of our previous rape cases. Earlier yesterday, sheriff's detectives arrested Guadalupe Gonzalez of San Joaquin. He's currently booked into the Fresno County Jail on the charge of rape, and his bail is currently set to no bail. Early on the morning of the 26th, we received a phone call from a local hospital that let us know that they were in contact with a woman who stated that she had been sexually assaulted. Deputies responded and gathered information about the attack that had taken place. The victim explained that she had met a man, later identified as Guadalupe Gonzalez, online with the intention of going on a date. However, this date quickly escalated and turned violent. The woman met Gonzalez at an apartment just outside of the city of San Joaquin. During their time together, Gonzalez took the woman's cell phone, held a gun to her, and forcibly raped her. Gonzalez ordered her into his vehicle and drove to a rural area in Fresno County where the sexual assault continued. Afterwards, Gonzalez took the woman's phone, threw it from her, and he fled in his tan-colored Tahoe that we have photographs of here. The victim was eventually able to get a ride from the area, and she was able to get to the hospital for treatment of her injuries. Once the hospital contacted the sheriff's office, the sex crimes unit got involved. Working with the sheriff's patrol deputies, they spoke with the victim, gathered valuable evidence, and identified the suspect. That's where we learned that this two-door Tahoe was involved. As the detectives familiarized themselves with Gonzalez, they recognized that this could be the same person responsible from other unsolved rape cases in the past, including all the way back to 2017 and 2019. Through their research, detectives confirmed that Gonzalez did in fact commit those rapes, and our concern now is that he's going to be responsible for other rapes that are not reported. Some of the things that we've noticed with him is his predatory behavior is a common MO. These are things that we will see with serial rapists like Gonzalez is. What we're really looking for today is to reach out to the public because we believe that there are more victims that are going to be out there that have not reported this. So we're reaching out to members of the public in hopes that they will recognize his car, recognize him, or recognize the patterns of behavior that he's committed, and that they will call us. These crimes of rape are severe, as this rape was also. We know that this can be a very embarrassing thing for victims. We know that it can be a very shameful thing for victims. We just really want to plead to our victims to please reach out. We have people that are going to be understanding of your situation. We need help making sure that this man is put away and doesn't come back out on the streets to victimize any more women. Gonzalez is described as 5'7", 225 pounds. He has tattoos on his arm and on his hand. We're not giving out the tattoo information specifically because what we're hoping is as victims come forward, that is a piece of the puzzle that we can use to help identify him with our victims. So at this time, I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Assistant Sheriff Zanoni, and we'll both be available for questions.
I appreciate you all being here today. We're members of the media. We need your help to get this information out to the public, to help encourage anyone who has been contacted or victimized by Guadalupe Gonzalez to come forward and contact the Fresno County Sheriff's Office to report a crime or an incident that's occurred. As Lieutenant Purcell said, up here, the monitor to the left, you'll see pictures of his vehicle, you'll see his photo. For potential victims out there, all of these crimes that we're talking about in 2017, 2019, and now in 2021 all occurred in the city of San Joaquin, which is located in western Fresno County. So to any potential victims, please come forward, please contact us. We're here for you, and we will help you get through this. That's all I have. Is there any questions anyone has?
Based on the amount of time between 2017, 2019, and now, how confident are you that there are other victims out there of his?
Based on the information and the fact that we have kind of a wide timeline from 2017 to 2019 to 2021, I do believe that there is a good potential for other victims out there, and maybe they just aren't coming forward for a variety of reasons. But now today, that since Mr. Gonzalez is now in jail, he is not eligible for bail, we encourage those individuals who are victims or have been contacted by Mr. Gonzalez to please come forward and contact us and provide us with any information that you can.
For other people who may not have been a rape victim necessarily of this man, but of somebody else, you were able to track down these 2017, 2019 cases. How important is it for people to come forward and document this information with you? Just the possibility that it could be solved even years later.
Well, it's extremely important, because when we get information, that's how we could develop leads, that's how we make cases, and that's how we help victims. That's how we help victims get justice. Maybe you're out there and you think that some information that you have, maybe you aren't a victim, maybe you are a victim. You may think it's insignificant or it's not a big deal, but that could be that little piece to the puzzle that we need, because we've got some other people that have provided information, and now we take that information and now we're able to solve the crime, or we're able to figure out who the suspect is, and we're able to go out there and find justice for these victims.
And then in the press release, it mentions that they did meet online and that they were meeting up for a date, which is super common today for people to meet online and meet up for a date. What do you think that this person could have done differently? What should people do when they are in this situation, meeting someone online for a date? What's your advice?
That is a very good question. I'm going to turn that one over to Lieutenant Brandon Purcell, and he will handle that.
I think you asked a lot of questions there. Standard behavior for anyone meeting with someone else online is make sure that you're not meeting alone. Make sure that you have precautions in place. Make sure you know who you're meeting with. And, I don't want to shame our victims for some of the mistakes that they have made, because what this was a consensual encounter that turned into a horrendous forcible rape. And we want to emphasize that very much. Some of these contacts can start out in one way and then change very, very quickly. And especially with this suspect, that's exactly what he did with every one of his victims, is he would meet them consensually, he would have conversations with them, and then the real person that they were meeting with would start to surface. That predator would come out, that rapist would come out. He has shown signs of violence, and he's escalating his violence with our victims. So that's really what we want to push out to anyone, is understand who you're meeting with. And don't go alone if you can. If you can help that, never be by yourself, meet in public places. Online is not a safe place unless you know exactly who you're dealing with. So take those precautions. But again, these women had the right to meet up with a man consensually. That does not take away from the fact that they were severely victimized by him. So we just want to emphasize that this was consensual to start with, but it took a drastic turn based on his predatory behavior, based on his level of violence.
Are you guys able to elaborate at all on how you were able to link him to those earlier rapes?
We can a little bit. We don't want to give out everything with it, because again, we don't want to give information that's going to either hurt our case or dissuade anybody else from coming forward. But part of it's going to be through DNA evidence. Part of it's going to be through common MOs, which he was very specific. These forcible rapes with weapons are pretty uncommon. So when we see a pattern of that, when we see similar descriptions of vehicles, similar descriptions of tattoos, those are all little pieces of a puzzle that we put together. And we're very fortunate that here in Fresno County, our law enforcement officers work together, that they talk to each other, and that they share information. And that was part of how this got put together also.
And could you also talk a bit about how the more people who come forward, the more likely it is that they'll spend a longer amount of time in prison?
Yeah, I mean, we would love for him to get the maximum amount of incarceration time possible. Absolutely. But really what we're looking for is hopefully some justice for our victims that are out there, that didn't think that they could come forward, maybe didn't think that we would trust them, didn't think that anything would happen. We want them to know that they can come forward so that we can get them the justice that they deserve and hopefully get them some closure. We can give them some victim services for maybe some counseling, some treatments, and help out with their mental health also.
And I don't know if this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. You mentioned that those other two cases in 2017 and 2019 were also in San Joaquin, correct?
They were all in the Fresno County area.
Okay.
That's kind of how we're gonna.
And can you describe the nature of those first two cases? I mean, was it very
Yeah.
similar? Was it
was
online dating? Was, meeting online and involved the weapon as well?
It was similar in that they started out as consensual encounters, and I believe that these women thought something else was going to take place, and then again that person inside of him would come out, and that's when the rapes would take place. So that was a similar thing with all those cases, and weapons are also a common thing.
Were there injuries in those previous two cases? Was it similar? Did they go to the hospital?
I'd have to go back and look through that specifically. I would believe that they probably did have to seek some sort of a medical treatment in those cases because these rapes are incredibly gruesome, they're incredibly violent, and they're incredibly damaging to our victims, both physically and mentally.
Have you ever been arrested before?
He has. I don't have his criminal history, but I know that he has previously been arrested.
Just to confirm, none of these victims were minors.
Correct. We do not have any minor victims right now. We are withholding a lot of the identities of our victims. The reason for that is because we don't know if he targeted one specific type of victim or if he targeted multiple victims. All we know is what we have now. That's why we're trying to reach out to the public for help, because we don't know if he only committed these rapes in San Joaquin or if he committed them also in the city of Fresno or in other areas. So that's really why we want to get his photograph out there. That's why we want to get his vehicle out there so that we can find out where else our victims may be.
Do we know, sir, anybody else helped him committing those crimes, or he's the only person?
I believe he acted alone. We don't have anybody that we're listing as a co-conspirator right now.
Probably this question was asked to you before many times, but I think it's very important for people to know that maybe there are people out there undocumented, let's suppose, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time, they don't go to law enforcement because of the immigration status and all this stuff. What's the message for them? We repeat
So-
it again and again. So.
A couple things. I do want to say that our suspect is Spanish and English speaking. So we may have sexual assault victims that are Spanish speaking. And we want them to know that they can come forward. We have people that speak Spanish. We have detectives that speak Spanish. And regardless of your immigration status, that doesn't dictate whether or not you're a victim to us. If that is what your fear is your immigration status, don't have that fear. We're going to help everyone the exact same. Our goal here is to help our victims. That is our intent here, is to solve these crimes and to put these predators away.
People who like to get it online, let's suppose they want to check someone's background. So most of the services out there, you have to pay for that. Is there any service like the sheriff's page or something where they can call, check someone's background with the first and last name or something? Is it possible? Or?
No, and I think probably because that's a very fine line with protecting someone's personal privacy, and that could get misused pretty quickly. So we'd have to be real careful with that. I would say just go through the standard checks of these people. Spend some time with them on the phone, meet them in public, meet them with friends, meet someone that they know, have someone mutually in common together that you know. Those kind of standard online dating tips would be helpful for everybody.
Like there's a website out there, you can check pedophiles or living in the neighborhood. Is there any website where you can see somebody was arrested for sexual assault or rape?
I believe Megan's Law is still active to see if they're convicted sex registrants. When someone's pending trial, we can't exactly post everybody that's been accused of a crime ever. So that's something that we can post once it's ordered by the court that they're documented as sex offenders, and they can always check those websites. But again, this is one of those things to where I'm sure that our victims did some things that they wish that they could undo at this point, but it's really nothing that they did made them deserve what happened to them. These are terrible, terrible crimes. And the reason that those crimes happen isn't because of online dating. It isn't because our victim met with him, it was because he's a rapist. It was because he's a violent rapist. It was because he's a serial rapist. And those are the things that we really need everybody to know, because our victims need help, and we want our victims to know that we're here to help them.
Do we know any
The
of the crimes?
victims, they're available for U visa. In this case, they.
Potentially, that's a process to go through, but that is an option, and that runs through the exact same unit in the sheriff's office as our sexual assault unit.
So
Do
you
you know
guys.
any of the crimes were recorded on video cameras or something on the cell?
I don't know that. I don't believe that they are.
Can you tell us if any of his priors were sex-related or
Yes.
rape-related? They were.
Yes.
And then the no bail, was that a decision on behalf of the DA, of the sheriff's department in order, was that intentional so that?
So they presented a series of facts to a local judge through what we call a RAMI warrant system, and that judge determined that it was a no bail offense.
He was ever involved in any kind of relationship, has kids or married or?
He does have children. Yeah, we believe he does. He does have children.
And what's his occupation? Like, he works?
I think that he's going to be classified as like a manual labor, farm labor.
And just confirming, you said he has had previous criminal charges for rape or sexual misconduct?
Yes. If there's nothing else, I'll turn it back over to Assistant Sheriff so we can wrap it up.
Again, thank you for being here today. Appreciate you all taking time out of your day to make sure that we can get this information out to the public. Hopefully we can, if there are other victims out there, this will encourage them to come forward and contact the Fresno County Sheriff's Office, and hopefully they can tell their story. And as we said, we are concerned about your victim status. We're not concerned about your immigration status and those things. If you're a victim, come forward. We will take care of you, and we will do the right thing. Thank you.